Welcome back into Clutch Talk Sports Radio live on the Sports Radio America Network, presented by Media NPC. Go to www.medianpc.com and download the app on your iOS and Android device and get your mobile press conference on with Media NPC. You can follow the Clutch Talk Sports Radio live show all over social media on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at CT Sports Radio. And you can also visit ClutchTalkSportsRadio.com for everything for the Clutch Talk Sports Radio live show, Real Clutch Sports Talk. You can also see our show streaming live on YouTube. Go to youtube.com, search Clutch Talk Sports Radio, and you can watch our show streaming live currently on YouTube. Please subscribe to our channel while you are there. We are live on the Sports Radio America Network, TuneIn Radio, and the TuneIn app. My producer, Memphis Spence, along for the ride with me today on the Clutch Talk Sports Radio live show. The phone lines are open, 888-444-0570. That's 888-444-0570 if you want to get in on the conversation. Thank you to our last guest, Chris Vanini of the Athletic College Football, for joining us on the Clutch Talk Sports Radio live show, coming off a tremendous weekend of action across the entire sporting landscape. We are just a few short weeks away from the start of the NFL season, but we're going to stick with the NCAA, a little bit of NBA, specifically with Rich Paul. The NCAA got punked out today by Rich Paul. You say, Kevin, how did that happen? Well, let me tell you how that happened. The NCAA last week came up with this cockamamie rule that said, look, if you want to be an agent and you want to represent players potentially wanting to go into the NBA draft and test out the NBA draft waters, one of the things that you'll need to do, among passing a test, being certified by the NBPA for 3 consecutive years, among those things, you need to have a college degree, a bachelor's degree, to be qualified to be representing players who want to go to the NBA draft. And everybody's like, whoa, wait a minute. There's a dude who runs one of the most powerful sports agencies in the world, whose clients include LeBron James, who include Anthony Davis, who include Draymond Green, Ben Simmons, and his name is Rich Paul. And guess what? Rich Paul doesn't have a college degree. So are you saying, NCAA, that Rich Paul can't represent clients who potentially want to join Clutch Sports Group in testing the NBA draft waters? And the national conversation, look, my random thoughts are about Rich Paul. Again, if you want to get on the conversation, 888-444-0570. The national conversation that sparked out of this rule and the outrage. I got everybody from Chris Broussard calling the rule racist. I got everybody talking about how you don't need to have a college degree to do much of anything these days, because the effectiveness and the usefulness of a college degree is a lot less than what it used to be even 10, 15, 20 years ago. So you've got the debate about the value of a college degree, whether the rule is racist. And finally, today, this morning, Rich Paul himself weighed in on the so-called Rich Paul rule, and Rich Paul has some very interesting things to say with respect to this new rule. And as you think about Rich Paul, you have to think about several things with Rich Paul. Number one, Rich Paul is a very smart guy. And yes, he is a friend of LeBron James. Yes, he is a guy that has been put on by LeBron James. But at the same time, Rich Paul knows exactly what he's doing. And Rich Paul offered some thoughts today in an op-ed piece by The Athletic that he wrote for The Athletic. And in part, he talked about this, saying, quote, "The media is calling it the Rich Paul rule. That, while incredibly flattering, is not accurate. It has no impact on me or the business of Clutch Sports Group. However, it does have significant impact on people like me, and the NCAA should be called for it." Further saying, quote, "Requiring a 4-year degree accomplishes only one thing: systematically excluding those who come from a world where college is unrealistic." The NCAA clearly is afraid of Rich Paul and everything. More importantly, they are afraid of what Rich Paul represents. So much so that the NCAA, 6 hours after Rich Paul put out those comments and that statement in the very well-written op-ed piece to The Athletic, the NCAA says, you know what? We're going to back off, okay? Look, you can have a college degree or you can have a waiver. And if you've been represented, if you're with the NBPA and all of this, guess what? You can represent NBA or represent college players who potentially want to test out the NBA draft waters. In essence, your man Rich Paul punked out a $1 billion organization in the NCAA with some words and pen to paper. Let's talk about this for a second. Rich Paul has put an entire industry on notice. Rich Paul is a smart guy. He knows what he's doing. More importantly, look, the business of agency is this. Anybody can be an agent. You can be an agent. I can be an agent. Anybody can be an agent. But guess what? Not everybody can be an agent. That's the difference with Rich Paul versus all these other dudes and all these other girls who are trying to be agents. Rich Paul knows what he's doing. He knows how to build relationships. Rich Paul has put himself in a space where players trust him, not necessarily because he got some formal education, but he understands the power of a working relationship and, more importantly, the relatability of what Rich Paul represents to the players that look up to him and LeBron James and all those individuals associated with Clutch Sports. That is what Rich Paul has put into place. But let's look at this at a more macro level. The NCAA systematically is trying to put things in place to exercise the control over athletes who aren't necessarily trying to be under the control and purview of the NCAA to begin with. The players that play on the basketball court, the football field, the baseball field, especially those revenue-generating sports, are free labor that the NCAA tries to control at every single turn. And what confuses me about this particular rule before it was changed today was the idea that the NCAA could dictate the terms of an athlete's decision to choose an agent about a professional career that they are trying to embark on by controlling who they can and cannot have represent them, when ironically the players that go on to the NBA or go on to a professional sport don't necessarily have a college degree to be qualified to play in the NBA, in the NFL, in Major League Baseball. It amazes me the hypocrisy of the NCAA in the decision-making and the thought process that they come up with to try and control players based on what they have is some antiquated notion that a degree should mean something to a player that it doesn't necessarily apply to. That is the ironic nature of the NCAA, and it confounds me, Memphis, that the NCAA continues to put itself in a space where they come out looking so incredibly stupid all the time. That is what
it's kind of
it just blows my mind, Memphis.
It's kind of amazing because you would think. See, here's the thing: this whole the committee put together, by the NCAA to actually think about these things. The fact that they didn't really kind of get it, the fact that they tried to even overstep what the NBA actually have in place, really one up the NBA on credentialing for agents.
It's insane.
It's amazing because they've never had agents here, and they're trying to literally say, NBA, you're not doing enough with agency. You know what I'm saying? You're not providing enough protection with agency. And the NBA is like, wait a minute, we're the professionals here. Why are you trying to overstep us and the safeguards that we have in place that we've used for years in order to actually have agents for the NBA?
Yeah.
Why are you trying to step on our toes?
It just
doesn't make sense.
The amount of control that the NCAA tries to wield over these individuals confounds me. Look, on a very macro level, this rule was systematically trying to keep individuals out. The player has the opportunity to decide who is qualified to handle their affairs. Case in point, Kawhi Leonard employs Uncle Dennis. I don't know if Uncle Dennis
correct.
has a degree. I don't know if Uncle Dennis
Right.
doesn't have a degree. Guess what?
Right.
It doesn't matter. Kawhi Leonard trusts Uncle Dennis to run his affairs.
Exactly.
If a guy decides, if a girl decides that player or agent A can be trusted and represent their affairs accordingly, whether they have a degree or not, that is the decision of the player and the decision of those around them. Look, I understand, I guess, the premise of what the NCAA was trying to do on a couple levels. Number one, the NCAA as an institution preaches to us that they are an organization that promotes the student athlete. Emphasis supposed to be on student, which means a student is supposed to go earn a college degree. So the very idea of a individual representing them who isn't necessarily qualified, quote unquote, without a college degree doesn't jive necessarily with the NCAA. So on that level,
in addition to that, Kevin, you got to think about it like this. I mean, the NCAA. This is a college degree and or a scholarship is literally the legal tender for the NCAA. That's what they're actually exchanging the services of these students with. If that gets devalued, then people see through the curtain, right?
Well, look, the NCAA tries to do this. They try to play to a certain segment of people, a bunch of white people, about the idea of what their institution is trying to represent. The educational values, the principal chasing of a degree, all of those things, these antiquated notions of what the NCAA is trying to portray to individuals who believe that these are ideals that should be strived for by individuals who play college basketball, college football, college baseball, whatever the case may be. That isn't necessarily the value of a college athlete, especially when you tell me, the NCAA, that these kids are worth billions of dollars based on the contracts, the television contracts that you sign with TNT, CBS, ESPN, the ACC network, the SEC network, the Texas Longhorn network. What you're telling me, NCAA, is that you're valuing what the kid is on the field versus what they are in the classroom. But then you come on the back end and tell me, no, we value what the student athlete is. No, your actions and your words tell me otherwise. And that is why I have such a problem with the NCAA and the way it comported itself when trying to put a rule like this together, and then looking as crazy as it did today after Rich Paul essentially called them out and everybody else called them out about how cockamamie this rule really is. I am never for a billion-dollar organization excluding individuals who are qualified to do the job that somebody else has potentially earned a degree for. They may not have the means, they may not have the opportunity to go and earn a piece of paper that someone else did. And the very idea that the NCAA couldn't recognize that from the outset tells you all you need to know about how the NCAA gets down with its business. And it's in the business of making money. It's in the business of trying to portray an antiquated notion that the student athlete is the most important. No. When you're making as much money as the NCAA is, hand over fist, year after year, we know what the number one priority is, no matter how much they talk out the side of their neck about how much a degree is valued or how much the student athlete is valued. It's about the cash, and it's straight cash, homie, year after year after year, from the television contracts to the networks to all the revenue. Just the NCAA basketball tournament generating $1 billion in excess every single year. Look, the one thing that a college athlete should be able to have some control over, some measure of autonomy over, is the decision of who represents them after they've been chewed up, used, and spit out by the NCAA and pimped out for the billions of dollars in television contracts that the free labor on the college basketball court, football field, baseball field, tennis court, hockey rink, whatever has put out for them. And
calm down.
Look, the NCAA they get under my skin. They drive me up a wall because, look, the hypocritical nature of the NCAA never ceases to amaze me, especially when you've seen what we've seen over the last several days with this particular rule. That is why the NCAA, to me, at times just acts like a bunch of crooks. Look, they pimp out these kids. They use them for the three. Look, you say, Kevin,
do they get any credit for changing the swift change after Rich Paul actually said his piece?
Of course not. No, they get none whatsoever because, again, the very conception of the rule, the very thought of having this into place tells me where I think their minds are. And it's excluding individuals like a future Rich Paul. Look, Rich Paul is a representation of a threat that we've seen in sports for years and decades and hundreds of years. And that is a black man having control over his own enterprises and threatening the very business that was meant to keep him out. That is what Rich Paul represents in today's world, especially in the sports agency. Someone who technically, based on a piece of paper, isn't qualified, but has dominated to the tune of a multi-million-dollar organization with powerful clients being represented by those who look like him. That is what's going on here. The NCAA is not trying to have that, but guess what? Too many voices spoke loud enough. Here we go. Thank you to all of our guests who joined us today on the Clutch Talk Sports Radio live show. Chris Vanini of the Athletic College Football, good enough to join us, and also Matt Barrett of Chiefs Digest, also good enough to join us today on the Clutch Talk Sports Radio live show. Thank you to all those joining us who joined us live on YouTube, youtube.com/Clutch Talk Sports Radio. Subscribe to our channel today. You can see today's entire episode available on YouTube. ClutchTalkSportsRadio.com, on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at CT Sports Radio. And don't forget to download and subscribe to our free podcast. For my producer, Memphis Mintz, my name is Kevin Gray, host of Clutch Talk Sports Radio Live. We are out. Have a great week. I'll talk to you on Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern on the Sports Radio America Network for real Clutch Sports Talk, CT Sports Radio Live. We're out. Have a great week.